What's going on, guys? Welcome back to your Lake Fork Guide, but got my man Cody Mays with me again. Cody, Lake Fork has had a lot of changes. What's happening? There's stuff everywhere, stuff in the water, things we haven't seen for a long time around here. Man, we're going to give you guys all the latest updates and try to give you guys a couple of tips and prepare you guys for what you're going to be facing when you make your trip to Lake Fork this spring, and tell you guys what to expect, how to attack it, and basically just give them everything we know how, conditions wise, what they need to be thinking about to get those big fish in the boat.
That's right.
Know what I mean, Mace?
I'm ready for it.
You ready for it?
I am ready.
You
for
sure
it.
you're ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready. Are y'all ready? Stay tuned, folks. Well, Cody, you know Lake Fork's been low, man. A little over a year ago now. Here we are, very end of February, so give it 2 months plus a year. So 14 months ago, they drew Lake Fork down, manually drew it down to 6 foot low to work on the dam. And it stayed that low or lower. It even got down to about 7.5 foot low during the summer. And it's come back up a lot now. We're 5.5 foot low just a couple weeks ago, seems like. Yep. And in about a week to 10 days, it jumped up a little over 3 feet. And that's a lot for Lake Fork. Now, I know there's other lakes in West and South Texas that swing 20, 30 feet in a year, whatever. That ain't us, man. Our lake, flat, it doesn't have a river running through it. It's the biggest lake with no river running through it. And it's really stable, typically. So these are huge changes for this fishery and for the way it lays out as flat as it is. And for these fish that are used to a stable environment, man, 3 foot of water is an immense, incredible change for them. And it happened in very short order. Now, what happened with the lake being low for the past year, as you guys can see behind us a little bit, and we'll show you some shots of it, man, there was a lot of just terrestrial growth that grew up along the lake bed while it was 6 foot low. So from 6 foot low to where the old existing shoreline was, we got just tons and tons of growth. Now that we've jumped up to 2.5, a little under 2.5 foot low, man, we got a lot of this stuff that's in good water. And just about everywhere you see this stuff, there's about 2 foot of water on the edge of it. So plenty of water for these fish to get in that cover. Like, that's plenty enough deep that these fish are they're gonna use that cover this spring, ain't they?
Oh yeah, especially, I mean, that's what they like to spawn in.
They like getting it, they'll get back off in there, cut them a little hole out of it and make a bed, yeah. I mean, they're gonna be in that junk. You know, we all know bass like heavy cover, especially big bass love heavy cover, and you can't get much heavier than some of this stuff we're seeing around us now.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna set up to be a great spring. I'm actually excited about it.
It is. It's funny as we're sitting here doing this, like here we are February, there's a carp right there. I don't know, can you see the rings over there on the water with my camera? I don't know if that'll show up or not. We're right there on one of them bean bushes. The carp have actually started spawning. It's like February 26th, I think, today. And the carp are spawning, which is odd for carp to be spawning this early. But what's going on is this last week of February, we've had one of the biggest, awesomest warming trends that I've maybe ever seen. Like, our weather has gotten warm, our overnight lows have stayed warm, and our water temp has gone from being 49 to, you know, some of it got low as 45 in the shallow water. Main Lake stayed around 50, 51, 52. But we've gone from that, literally Thursday today, Saturday, Sunday, the lake was 50 degrees. 50 degrees. And now in some of the shallow water, we've seen temps as high as 67. We're sitting kind of pretty far back in one of the creeks right now. What's the temperature say right here?
60.3.
You can show them on the camera. You guys can see for yourself, there's the real live temperature right there, 60 degrees right here where we're sitting. I can tell you this cove, yesterday though was 65. We did have a cold front today. The shallow water swings up and down temperature wise. It knocked it down. But even on the main lake out there where we started this morning fishing, Cody, 58 degrees.
Yeah.
So an 8-degree change on the main lake body of water in 4 days. That's huge, man. That is a huge, huge difference. And 58 degrees is kind of the temperature bass like to start spawning in. And we got a full moon coming up here at the beginning of March, March 7th. It's all happening, dude.
Oh, it's happening quick, because I mean, you had these fish that were staging on these points and on the structure
creek channel bends and stuff.
And now, like yesterday and the day before, you're not seeing those groups.
They're gone.
They're gone.
They're gone.
Yeah.
They are making the move really, really fast. I have noticed that. So as you guys are getting ready, if you're coming to Lake Fork as this video is coming out or right after it comes out, just know that, man, things are changing fast around here. And we've even talked about it some today. It almost feels like there's always a lull before the spawn. Like there's like a little week-long, 10-day-long lull where they've been pre-spawn feeding good, and then they kind of just stop. And then 7 or 10 days later, you can find fish on beds and they go back to feeding again, you know, and they go back to being more aggressive up in those spawning areas again. But there's always that 7 to 10 day lull where this lake gets as tough as it gets right before it gets really good during the spawn. I remember when Bass Pro Tour came here in 2020, they were here like March 13th or something like that. And literally the week they were here, like while they were practicing, it was the lull. And it was like dead nuts tough, dude. All them guys were struggle. Then all of a sudden, like with the moon phase, them being 2 days after the moon phase or whatever it was, right as they started the tournament, the spawn really got started in earnest, and they were catching big bass everywhere. They went from nobody's catching anything to we're all catching everything.
Yeah, they were about to sell their boats.
And what's weird is, yeah. Well, sell them, they get them for free. Don't you know? All you pros get boats for free, right? Yeah, that's not true either. But what's weird is what's happening now is this week is happening so fast. The temperature increase. You can almost see it happening throughout the week. Monday, Tuesday, it's going down. They're biting. Wednesday, tough, a little tougher. Today, really tough. We fished this morning, really tough. In some of the same areas we caught fish on Monday and Tuesday, man, we can't get a bite on Thursday. It's almost like they've gone, that last little pre-spawn feed has happened and they're going into that lull right before the spawn, which would make sense because we're about 10 days from that full moon on March 7th. And with these water temps, buddy, it should be on here in about a week.
But yeah, no, I mean, I'm very excited about this year. You know, it's coming early. It's going to be.
It is happening a little bit earlier.
It is. It's going to be a great spring. You know, and this is my first time of the year to go full time.
This is your first year full time.
First year.
Just went full time, guide.
And so with spawn starting early, man, I'm in heaven.
It's time to go.
It is. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Well, they say kick the tires and light the fires or something like that. Right. Let's kick that mule, baby. Let's go. Spur that thing, son. It's time. It is going to be a great spring. You know, as far as what you guys can expect condition-wise, man, you're going to have a lot of stuff to fish. The whole lake has stuff like this. Here's my biggest tip for that. Don't get overwhelmed by everything looking good to fish. That's easy to do out here.
Yeah.
That's a big thing out here. Even when you just look at all the timber we have, I think a lot of people come up to Lake Fork and they get overwhelmed. If you've been overwhelmed at Lake Fork in the past, you'll really be overwhelmed this year because there's so much stuff that looks, I mean, you look around this right now, it's like, oh my God, there should be one right there, one right there, one right there, one right there. Like, it just all looks awesome. What you gotta concentrate on, guys, is you gotta concentrate on the bottom content and the bottom contours. These fish literally have cover from one end of this lake to the other up on the bank right now. So you got to find those shallow water areas that have the creek channel winding through it, right? That have a point extending out underneath all that stuff, that have a hard spot, a harder bottom versus a softer bottom. If you find a patch that has hard, clean bottom and a patch that has soft bottom, fish that hard bottom. Those type of things, bottom content, bottom contours, that's where the fish are going to be around when they've got unlimited amounts of cover to get in.
So when you're sitting on that point with the creek channel, I mean, what are you going to be focusing on throwing this time of year on those fish? Here's
my recommendation to everybody on every lake everywhere, especially lakes that have an overwhelming amount of cover, right? Let's go over what cover is versus what structures. Cover is grass, wood, docks, brush piles. That's cover. Structure is hump, point, creek channel bend, road bed. Those are all structures. My recommendation to everybody that goes to a lake that has overwhelming cover is to focus on structure and then pick what bait, what technique you fish based on the cover that is there. So like if I'm fishing a point with a creek channel swing on it, because that seems like the right structure to fish, that's a good structure, point with a creek channel swing. Let's go fish that point with a creek channel swing. When I get to that point, if it's timber, then we're going to fish baits that work in timber. May throw a jig, may throw a worm, may throw a crankbait that bounces off wood good, right? If I get there and it's got flooded stuff on it up on the point, man, we may break out that chatterbait and that swim jig along the edge of that. You know what I mean? Like, may throw that spinnerbait on the edge of it, you know? So I'm going to pick where I fish based on the structure. I'm going to pick how I fish based on the cover.
I got you. Good info.
There you go. Did I answer your question, sir?
You did. I think you
there we go.
Question,
I hope that answers. Yeah, that's why we do this back and forth, so we can answer some of you guys' questions. But be prepared. Be prepared to see a lot of stuff that looks really good in the water. Get your frogs ready. Get your frog. It's going to be a great frog year. We've already got temps warm enough to catch them on a frog. When the carp start spawning, we all know this from past history on Lake Fork or any lake really. When the carp start spawning, it's about time to start throwing the top water. Right. And so the carp are spawning like crazy. Oh, there's one right there. There's one over there. They're going off around us right now in a lot of the creeks. Man, it's time to get the frog up. There's a lot of good stuff to throw a frog at.
So there is one other thing I do want to say. So with the lake being so low for the last, what'd you say, 14 months?
14 months.
We've gotten used to the lake being low.
Yeah.
And now that it's up, it looks like a totally different lake.
Yeah.
And, you know, I ran prior guide lane chips and all that prior to last year. Now with the lake full, running your Lake Fork Guides pro lanes, I'm telling you there was a lot more shortcuts that I could take, a lot more space I could run.
So we did extensive work on that. That is one thing, not to be a sales plug here, but this is something that can help you guys navigate the lake for real. Because what I did was, when they pulled this lake down to 6 foot low, I idled everywhere. I mean, to every corner, every creek arm, and I marked lanes. So when the lake's 6 foot low, I can now see, okay, what is wide enough to run a boat in if I put 3 more foot of water on this. So we have 2 sets of lanes on our Your Lake Fork Guide Pro lanes. We have the lanes that were good at 6 foot low and the lanes that are good at 3 foot low and above. Well, now that we're above that, all those are good. And I idled and visually looked and saw, okay, this is wide enough to run a boat through here. If I get 3 more feet of water on it, let's mark a lane there. And that's what we've done. And so, yes, even for me, myself, like I taught myself a lot about navigating the lake doing that. And there is a lot of shortcuts. There's a lot of places I can go that I couldn't, like on plane, that I couldn't go before.
And this is the first time that we can actually run the 3 foot lanes to actually try.
Absolutely,
them out,
since I've made it, yes, it sure is. So the Your Lake Fork Guide Pro lanes that are available at yourlakeforkguide.com, man, that is a huge help to navigating this lake. You can actually, that's what our slogan is: navigate Lake Fork just like a pro. Yeah. That's why we call them pro lanes, because you can get out here and you guys can drive around this lake just like us that are out here every day do now. I will say, some of those lanes, they have hazard waypoints on them. Some of those lanes are real tight. If you're not comfortable keeping your boat directly on that line, or you're not comfortable how close those hazard waypoints are on there, idle that, especially at least the first few times you go through it. Idle it to get a feel for it and kind of get a feel for where the line is. It's not exactly easy to keep your boat exactly on that line when you're on plane if you're not used to it. So be careful on some of those lanes where the hazard waypoints get really tight. Yeah.
That's right.
Good talk.
Get out there, catch some fish.
Catch some fish, dude. This is going to be an unbelievable spring. Water temps in the 60s across the lake and the backs of creeks, almost a 60 on the main lake. It's February and it's already there. Moon cycle. We've got, if you guys are spawn fishermen, I got to tell you this too. March 10th and 11th, 3 and 4 days after that full moon in March, it's a Friday and Saturday. That's going to be some amazing bed fishing. You know, whether we'll be able to see them real good across the whole lake by then or not, some of the lakes are going to still be dirty, but you should have some awesome bed fishing in most of the lake, March 10th and 11th. April, what was the other Saturday? Let me look it up on the calendar real quick. April 8th. April 8th is also 3 days after a full moon. Got another full moon on April 5th. April 8th, top to bottom, all across this lake, there will be fish on beds. Those 2 dates, March 10th, April 8th. Those are the 2 best sight fishing days of the year. Guaranteed. You heard it here first. It's always that way. 3 days after the full moon in March, 3 days after the full moons in April, especially the first half of April, the last half of March, across the whole lake, those are going to be the best sight fishing days of the year.
Yeah, you know what I can't wait to see?
What's that?
You got Mega Bass coming up, middle of March.
Yeah, yeah.
It is setting up to be, I just wonder how many overs are going to be weighed every hour. I don't know. Is it going to be like it's a typical lake where there is no unders?
I don't know if it'll be there no unders, but you know, that's a lot. They give away a lot of spots, so there won't be no unders. But yeah, no, there's going to be a lot weighed in.
It's going to be interesting.
And I think that one being in between the 2 moon cycles will be more of the shallow point deal. That's the other thing that works really well out here is we you know, especially the last 10 years, the last 5 years especially, that shallow wind-blown point deal has become so popular. And we'll talk more about that as we get closer to, you know, a little further in the spring. But in between the moon cycles, that ought to be the deal. And now those shallow points, are not just rock.
Right.
They've been just rock and shell and clay with no cover. Now a lot of those shallow points have that on it.
Yeah.
So you not only have the structure, right, the bottom content, you've got the cover that we didn't have before. We added that to it, gonna make it even better. I bet that Megabass deal, that should be the shallow point beatdown to end all shallow point beatdowns.
Yeah.
Should be.
I'm anxious to see it.
Should be. Well, Cody, man, thanks for sitting down and doing this with me. Appreciate you trying to help these guys get ready for an awesome spring here at Lake Fork, man. I couldn't be any more excited. This is the spring. I'm more excited for this spring than I have been in a long time on Lake Fork. I mean, this is going to be good. The water's come up, man. It's going to be awesome. We have great fry survival. It should be great. It should provide a great source for the next few years. A little bit of boost to the population of the lake should happen this year because more of our fry should survive in this condition. Just a lot of things looking real good at Lake Fork. So I'm excited about it. Hope you guys are excited about it, man. I hope some of the stuff we talked about here today helps you guys out and helps you have more fun on your trips to Lake Fork this spring. Listen, whether you ever book a trip with us or not, whether you buy a boat lane ship, a fishing rod, an app subscription, if you never do any of that, we want everybody that comes to Lake Fork catch as many big fish as possible and to have as much fun as they can at Lake Fork. We want to keep you guys coming back. Hey, this lake thriving as a business for all the businesses around here is what keeps us being able to live our dream, and that's why we do the videos we do to try and help you guys, man. We are very appreciative of all you guys that watch these videos and get out here to Lake Fork and enjoy it because it's what lets us do what we want to do for a living, and it means the world to us that y'all do. So thank you guys so much as always. We'll see you guys next time right here. Where we gonna see them?
On your Lake Fork Guide.
On here in about a week.
I don't know what to say.
Yeah, you suck at this.
Well, I know, especially when you have somebody that talks so much like you.
We have a lot of them when you're here.
I know. I don't understand why.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just go blank sometimes.
Just car ran real good.
Yeah.
Car ran real good.
That's right.
That's it.